Hey guys, hello and welcome to another episode of Vince and Films. My name is Vincent and I'm currently living in Paris where I'm trying to break the record of most films seen in a cinema in 1 year. Now, today marks the end of week 24, the end of day 168, and I'm now at 349 films seen in theaters. Now, I know I should have made an effort to be able to reach 350, but I already saw 15 films and it seemed like enough at the time, especially since, well, this week has been, or has felt at least, rather below average, in regards to the quality of the films that I got to see. Among the new releases, none really stood out, and there were none that I really enjoyed, even though there was some that were rather original. For instance, there was a musical comedy from a Chinese filmmaker Johnny To called Office, which was rather original. It was very theater-like because it all took place. It was all filmed in a stage, in a not a theater per se, because they still had buildings and cars, but you know that everything took place inside. It was very fictional, but very beautifully staged and put together. The songs were quite catchy, and the story also was very entertaining about a group of a Chinese company that is going to do an IPO, so it's going to get into the stock market. And there are a lot of issues that take place for such an operation, and then you live and you follow the lives of the different employees. And taking place in China, of course, there's a lot of hard work involved. But other than that, the only thing that is quite noticeable among the new releases was the Hitman's Bodyguard. Not necessarily because of its quality or not. I mean, it was entertaining, it was fun, nothing major. But what was noticeable was the French marketing, because I think I touched on this point once already. I think it was for Lady Macbeth, which has a French title called The Young Lady, which sounds very French, of course, and I think they outdid themselves this time with The Hitman's Bodyguard, because the French marketing team decided to call this film in France, the original being The Hitman's Bodyguard, the French title being, drumroll please, Hitman and Bodyguard. So that's about the new releases. Nothing really major. I hope next week's going to be better for me, especially since I'm looking forward to Wind River, the first directorial effort of Taylor Sheridan, who is usually a screenwriter or has been an actor before that, and he wrote very good films called Comancheria, sorry, that's the French title, Hell or High Water, which, you know what, I'm probably going to talk about this next week, so tune in next week. But for now, the only films that really stood out this week were old films that were rather entertaining, but didn't live up to the feelings that I had last week with HUD, Lonely Are the Brave, and High Noon. But there was, what's it called? Lethal Weapon, yeah! I saw Lethal Weapon for the first time in theaters. I think they re-released it because in the French marketing they called The Hitman's Bodyguard the new Lethal Weapon team. Now, I preferred Lethal Weapon, was much more fun, much better directed, and the actors were, I mean, nothing against Samuel L. Jackson or Ryan Reynolds, which I enjoy very much, and they were good in the film. It wasn't their fault if I didn't like it as much as Lethal Weapon. But Lethal Weapon was great. Otherwise, there was an American film called Deliverance, which takes place. It's a kayaking tour on a river that is going to become a dead lake, that they call, and shit happens, and everything goes sideways. It's very intense and deals with what man can get away with, and what not, and what happens. Otherwise, there was a French film called Louis Buñuel, and Louis Buñuel, his films have been rather hit or miss, but this time there was Le Charme Discret de la Bourgeoisie. Now, the English title would be The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie. I don't know what the French name for bourgeoisie is. It's rather the upper class, and it's a very ironic film that is it's not a comedy per se, but it is very funny because it's it's this typical humor that is just out of the way and very peculiar. but definitely worth seeing. Otherwise, to come back really quickly on new releases, there was a film that was rather memorable for me, which was Lumière d'été by Jean-Gabriel Perriot. Lumière d'été deals with Hiroshima and the atomic bomb that was launched and dropped there. Not launched, but dropped there. And it was very touching because it was the kind of a documentary, but fiction documentary about a guy who wants to make a documentary about Hiroshima and the survivors, and gets testimonies and meets some people, and a woman, mysterious woman, who shows him around and tells him stories about what it all, what the consequences were and how the people lived with it right after the explosion. And it was very heart-wrenching at some moments. So that's definitely a movie that I can highly recommend if you ever are interested in Hiroshima, the atomic bomb, and all that, especially nowadays, where we're wondering if one is going to drop soon or not. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. I hope I'll be seeing or hearing you next week. Have a good evening. Salut!